16 degrees on a cold hump day Wednesday morning, the 19th day of November. Always warming our hearts, the incomparable Mike Landers. Mike, good morning to you, sir.
Jimmy Dale, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if I warm everybody's heart, but I sometimes warm other parts of them, but I'm never at a loss for words.
Let's talk this morning something that we've had as an issue here in our town for a long time, and seeming like the cold weather, and it's 16 degrees this morning, and it was cold yesterday morning and throughout the day yesterday. But the homeless plight is something that kind of shows more in the spotlight, seemingly in colder weather. And you and Pam kind of looked into this a little bit.
We did, and it was primarily because Pam, she was at Noble Park, and she discovered that there were people that were living in some drainage pipes down there.
And you're talking about living.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just kind of hanging out there. Mm-hmm. We have some folks that hang out at Noble Park for purposes that are less than productive at night and that kind of thing. But these are folks that actually had nowhere else to go, and they found themselves living there. And this is not a temporary situation. It's long-term for many of these folks. And then over on the other side of town, at the viaduct up from McDonald's, there are folks that live there. And you know what I also know, and I want to be sure I emphasize this, is Sylacauga is very fortunate to have in place the Sylacauga Alliance for Family Enhancement, SAFE, because Margaret Morton her organization is the clearinghouse for information for these people and for assistance for these people. Same with Earl Lewis down at Care House. That's food assistance. And then several of the churches do soup
there's
kitchens.
There's a number of
here.
agencies that...
What Pam and I found is that many of the folks that are not being served, and not being served because it's not a lack of services here, many of these folks have additional issues in addition to just being homeless. Pam talked to one young man that we've known for a long time and comes from a family that's been here a long time, and he finds himself homeless now. And the problem is not simply that there's nothing out there to assist him, it's that he has adjacent issues such as some mental health issues and some health issues. And once these folks drop off the grid, for whatever reason, suspicions that are unnatural due to mental illness or suspicions due to situations in their lives drive them away from organized programs that would care for them. And so you have those people. And it can be as simple as just needing a coat or a hat or gloves or a blanket for these people. And what I would say, and the churches are doing a wonderful job. Earl Lewis is doing a wonderful job at Care House. Margaret's doing a wonderful job. The main thing is, if you know someone that's in this situation, that if you can get them to one of these agencies, that's wonderful. Pam and I found that there's some, due to lack of mobility, they didn't have a car, again, due to suspicion, again, due to mental health issues, or health issues. Some of them are confined in their whatever their circumstances are. Another big issue that we discovered, and you don't know this, but there are a lot of folks that basically are squatters in abandoned buildings and abandoned houses every night. You know, you'll find a house that may be a little dilapidated, it may not be occupied, it might not have been occupied for many years, and you find that there are folks staying there overnight. Well, what happens is, obviously trying to stay warm, they build a fire, the house burns, and the key to all this, as any of those folks I have mentioned, Earl Lewis or Margaret Morton, we all know that the key is early intervention and getting them to the services that are there. But it's not quite so simple as, you know, if I told you, Jimmy Dale, you need to go get some preventive health care, you're going to say, well, I need to go down there and see about that, and you're going to jump in your car and go. These folks might not have a car to go. They might not understand what you say. They might not want to do it. And Pam has a servant's heart. And so at this time of year, she's particularly vulnerable to causes that strike a chord with her. And
even though we might don't want to think about somebody would choose to be homeless. There's some that's their lifestyle, but there's a lot of people out there that are in need for various different reasons that you've talked about. And again, the city of Sylacauga and the many servants that we have here do what they can, but sometimes you can get overloaded with the number of needs in the community.
Well, and as you say, and a lot of folks have never been homeless, so it's hard for them to put themselves in the position of that. But when you say they want to be homeless, that's probably not what they want, but within their skill set or within their present mental condition due to mental illness and all kind of it's the full range from depression to schizophrenia to alcoholism, drug abuse. They don't choose that life, but it's where they are, and they can't break that cycle. And as I say, we've got wonderful agencies and organizations in place. If you know someone that has this problem right now, the first stop in my mind, if you're an individual that don't feel like you can get hands-on or don't feel like you have the resources to contribute directly, get them down to Margaret Morton's program, because Margaret can direct them from there to where there's help. And so I would just encourage everybody, they're out there. There's estimated that there may be upwards of 200 folks in Sylacauga that are homeless, and that's a frightening statistic.
Mike Lander's our guest this morning. Mike, never lost for words, and we're shifting gears to city government. The budget not yet done in Sylacauga.
No, the budget's not done, but I don't want to pick on the mayor. The mayor has presented a budget, and of course, cities and states don't have the same option that Uncle Sam has. Uncle Sam can just write a budget and print money to match the budget. The state of Alabama and the city of Sylacauga have to live within their budget. They can't do deficit spending. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't borrow money for special projects, but you cannot have a budget running at a deficit. And Doug has presented, the mayor has presented a budget. The council is working on it. But now, these are things that are actually due in October, and here we are in November. At one point, some of the agencies around town, and specifically one that you and I are involved in, is Chamber of Commerce. And, when you tell an agency you don't get your city appropriation this month, that sends panic through the organization because there are bills to pay and payroll to make. But fortunately, the money has come through. The city has funded their appropriations on a temporary basis and until they get the budget done. It's, as I said, level funded, which means basically everybody gets what they had last year. But let me say something about that. Level funding sounds eminently fair, but level funding is just the converse. It's eminently unfair. Because if you've got an agency or organization that's funded by city government and they're doing an extremely good job and they could use more money to expand their program and it's a viable, worthwhile program, then what you have is you're saying to them, we're not giving you any more money. We're not going to expand your program. We're going to stay where we are. Then if you've got a program that's not quite as effective and maybe not doing the work that they're designed to do, and they're getting level funded, you're legitimizing that program just as you're delegitimizing the program that could have used more money. So I'm not a level funding guy. And my thoughts are, if I were having to create a budget, is I would do budgeting based on performance. I would ask every agency, from the true city departments like fire, police, street, administration, on out through Parks and Rec, library, and then on to the ancillary organizations that are partially or totally funded. And I'd say every year I want you to come in and discuss with me your budget. I want you to present your budget almost like a grant application, because we need to know how you justify what you're doing. And we don't have that. And I think it's very important that we get to something like that, because every organization needs to do a reality check every once in a while. And it's a much fairer way to budget. And I'd like to see that happen in Sylacauga. And if I were in the mayor's chair, I would want to do that. Now, the mayor has done his job. He has presented the council with a budget, and Doug presented a budget that I thought was fair. It's a balanced budget, and it's a budget that is level funded, but still it's fair. It was presented to them, and now they're tinkering with it. But let me say this, and you know now, with all the pie, there comes a little egg, and so I'm going to have to put the egg out there too. One reason we hadn't gotten the budget done is 3 of our council members are on a vacation. Now they'll tell you that they've gone to the National League of Cities convention in Texas, in Austin, Texas, and they have. Last year, this same 3 plus the city clerk went to Seattle on the taxpayer's dime. And it cost about $8,000 last year for them to go, and I suspect it'll cost that.
So the city coffers money, is that correct?
That's right. That's $8,000 plus out of city monies that could go somewhere else. My thoughts were, why didn't they send one and let that person bring back the information in lean times? And again, I want to give credit where credit's due. Mayor Murphy last year declined to go due to budgetary concerns. Last year, Councilman Lucas declined to go due to budgetary concerns. Last year, Councilman Cardin declined to go due to budgetary concerns. This year, those same 3 declined to go. But the fearsome foursome, Joe Hogan, Tom Roberts, Shannon Darby, and Patricia Cardin, the budget wasn't worrying them too much. They're in Texas right now. So you see, I wonder if we're getting the most bang for our buck. And I know that, as I said, you've heard me say this before, you send your vessel out empty and hope to bring something back. Well, we've certainly sent 4 empty vessels out there. And I know there might be some knowledge for them to gain, but whether they get their buckets full or not.
Where are the hang-ups with approving the budget?
Well, Councilman Hogan has indicated that he'd like to shift some money, which when you start shifting on a level funded budget, that means you want to cut somebody. Specifically, I understand that he has talked about cutting the chamber budget, and the chamber budget doesn't need to be cut. We're pretty lean. And I think a lot of times folks wonder, Jimmy Dale, what the chamber does for Sylacauga. First, the chamber, as you well know, represents its members, represents them in terms of promotions of business interest, some work in Montgomery that relates to business legislation. But also, you think about the Christmas parade, you think about the fishing derby, you think about this catfish tournament we're going to have next year. Those are all things that are designed purely to promote Sylacauga. And the way I view that is the city of Sylacauga has basically outsourced to the chamber their promotional function. Because if you think that you can hire a PR firm to do this type work any cheaper than the chamber will do it for the city, they're sadly mistaken. And because of that, we're very valuable and vital to the city of Sylacauga. We do the promotion work for the city of Sylacauga. The chamber has no direct benefit from the parade. The benefit we have is that it promotes Sylacauga and it promotes the merchants. So, you know, I'm not in favor of any cuts at the chamber either. So, and as you know, I am the incoming president, will be the president of the chamber next year. And the chamber, like every organization, you sometimes get stale, you sometimes need to make changes, you sometimes have to develop new policies to conform to economic realities. But I want to say this about the present administration. I think Carla Taylor of Coosa Valley Medical Center has done a wonderful job. Carla has had an extreme amount of support from the hospital and the medical center, and Carla, kudos to you. She's left me in a good position to come on board. Now, we've got to take some pretty drastic steps next year. Our building's in disrepair, as you've noticed being up there. I noticed driving by yesterday, we've got some roof issues. We've got some painting issues, some water issues that have got to be addressed. So we may have to borrow money this year, coming year, but we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
We got to preserve our
A
building.
couple more minutes with Mike Landers. Mike, you have been involved, and we've got about 3 more minutes to go. You've been involved in helping recruit businesses into Sylacauga. Share some ideas going on right now.
Absolutely. And one of the things I want to tell you, Jimmy Dale, is that we have next week a ribbon cutting down at the existing quarry at Fayetteville. Clients of mine, and I do industrial development and do lobbying, and these clients came through Baker Donaldson Law Firm in Birmingham, who I am affiliated with on this project, but they are Chinese investors combined with an Alabama group, Masonry Arts, who are well known in the stone business. In fact, Masonry Arts restored the Pentagon, the limestone on the Pentagon, after 9/11. These are folks that are long time in the business, and what they've done is they're taking control of the quarry next week, but they have agreed to spend $1 million a year on promotions to rebrand Sylacauga pure white marble as the premier white marble in the world.
Wow.
And that's a big deal for Sylacauga. The other thing is they're going to create 20 to 40 jobs down there within the first year and then expand from there. The plus side again is that in Bessemer, they're building a new finishing facility, a $27 million finishing facility in Bessemer. So this has long-reaching effects.
Yeah.
One more thing, don't forget the Christmas parade. The Christmas parade's coming up on December the 2nd at 6:30. I know that there was a very distinguished and important guest sitting right here at this desk last week.
I saw him.
Santa was in town, and I was so glad to see him, because when you get the man in the red suit, you know that your parade's going to be all right.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. Mike, final thought this morning. Thanksgiving is next week. We've got a lot to be thankful for.
Absolutely. And even though we look around and we sometimes think we're not doing as well as we should and could and want to, remember, you know, we're all here as God doesn't see us any different, one or another. We're here by His grace. And do something positive for Thanksgiving. Give thanks in a positive way. Get proactive. Help somebody that needs to be helped. And I think if you do that, your blessing will be magnified.
All right. Mike, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Jimmy Dale. Always a pleasure.
Mike Landers, our guest this morning on Daybreak.